And we're live. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, extraterrestrials, hobbits, and cryptids, to our first episode of Scuttlebutt with the Phill on the Fleet Admiral Levi Show. If you're watching us now or in the future, please leave a like or comment or share it if you liked it. But in reality, subscribe. It really does help the channel. Tonight, we'll discuss a few items, namely, I'm here to say a few things, do a couple things, and hopefully give a little of myself to the infamy of the internet. In this episode, we're going to be discussing a few things, namely commemorating the 55th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, give a few life updates, as well as a little bit of items on the news of the day. So I hope you're ready to strap in, and hopefully you've gotten yourself a snack. And yeah, this is our first episode. So today is the 55th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. To this day, Buzz Aldrin remains the last survivor of the original crew, and it's going to be sad if all the original moonwalkers are gone by the time we finally launch Artemis 2 or 3. And it's a major tragedy. Tonight, actually, in San Diego, at the San Diego Air and Space Museum, they're doing I think they're calling it a Fly Me to the Moon commemoration for the 55th anniversary as well. The reason I'm not there is because it's a $750 plate dinner, black tie event, and I don't do those. So I'll have to meet Buzz Aldrin some other time. But Buzz Aldrin will be appearing alongside Charlie Duke, and he's another moonwalker that would also be great to meet. Both of them are only two of the four remaining moonwalkers that we have still alive and kicking. The purpose of Fleet Admiral Levi is to basically be a sounding board for a few wacky notions and periodically have some fun. I typically love science fiction, fantasy, and horror, obviously the best genres. And occasionally we'll dive into some world building of my own fictional works that I'm currently at work developing. And I hope you're willing to enjoy this new trip down a very, very unique road. Some news of the day items I think we should discuss. In space news, we have, aside from the commemoration of today being the day of the Apollo 11 moon landing, we have some ongoing issues on the space station with the crew of the Boeing Starliner still, we can't use the word trapped, but they are not any closer to coming home. I believe it was supposed to be a week-long mission, and now it's turned into, I think, a little over a month, and it's not looking like it'll be any sooner for them to return home. So we wish them all the best. And I believe I looked at my phone the other day, and I have an app where we can keep track of all the space launches that they do out of Vandenberg Air Force Base out in Lompoc. So there's supposed to be a launch, I think, on the 22nd, although last I heard, they're a little bit in a spot with SpaceX, because I believe the last launch, which I did witness some point last week, where the rocket went up, but it didn't correctly stage. So I've never seen something like that. It's my first rocket failure. So I think that's a little interesting. But the FAA, I assumed, was grounding them until they were able to demonstrate that they were capable of launching a vehicle that would not have the issues that the previous launch did. The previous launch and this current one that's coming up are both Starlink missions. So, very interesting. And in other news from the science fiction television world, Paramount Plus have canceled the Halo television series after 2 seasons. And obviously, Halo is based on the best selling Bungie video game series, which I think is now 343 Studios. And I only watched the first season, I haven't seen the second. I didn't have any issues with it initially. It's always good to it's always good to visit that world and kind of see what the things they can play with in that sandbox. And not quite science fiction, but borderline possibly a mix of fantasy and science fiction. The film Twisters came out this week, and I've already seen it 3 times. Granted, in 3 different formats, but still. We saw it once in Dolby Atmos, and we saw it again in 4DX, which was quite an experience. I do recommend it for those of you who want quite a different type of film-going experience. I definitely think it takes a very specific kind of event film for that to be necessary. They also had a trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, which was done to the 4DX standards, so it was done like you were watching Wolverine or Deadpool and Wolverine in 4DX. So it may be another opportunity for us to visit 4DX and see what that's about. But to my knowledge, AMC Theaters, which is my preferred movie theater chain, do not have a 4DX setup, to my knowledge. We went to the Regal theater chain at LA Live in downtown Los Angeles. That's where I'm out of, is Los Angeles area. So it's a lot easier for me to get around town than people who are not from town. So it's definitely an experience that I recommend to you. I give the film 4 out of 5 stars. Nothing can replace the importance of the first film in my mind. The first film was definitely an inspiration for me. It was pretty close to turning me into a storm chaser. And had it not been for my distaste of mathematics, which some storm chasers tell me they don't even use, I don't know if those are the legit kind or the public storm chasers, but yeah, I would imagine that as that career goes on, if I pursued a PhD in that, it would probably be quite the challenge for me. Someone who is not mathematically inclined, and this is ironic considering that I'm a great supporter of space and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and the arts. But aside from that, we're looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine next week. I'm not really a movie review guy, but you couldn't really tell that considering that I've contributed a few movie reviews to various periodicals in the past. And yeah, I don't want that to be the norm. But periodically, I do post my film reviews and television reviews, more so the film reviews, on my Letterboxd. I'll make sure that it's on my bio as one of my links you can visit at any time you'd like to check out what my thoughts are on various films that have come out in the past few months, if not years. I'm slowly but surely working backwards to figure out when I watch certain films and kind of ballpark what my feelings were at the time, as well as what they've become with time. So it's been quite a journey for that. I hope you're willing to join us there as well. Beyond that, we've already covered the Apollo 11 moon landing anniversary. Cover a little bit of the news of the day. Now we move on to life updates and plans for the future. So The norm on this channel is kind of a combination of things. So YouTube will eventually evolve into my main platform to get my content out there. So if you want to see anything that I've done, or if you're interested in anything that might strike your interest, you're more than welcome to like, subscribe, or preferably subscribe, or just comment. Everything helps us out. We need to overcome the algorithm and get us to that sweet, sweet point where you all can enjoy the wonders and insanity that is my, I don't know what you want to call it. I'll call it imagination. But anyway, we will go over some life updates. So, the current item of business in my life is getting my writing out there. This summer, I've spent quite a lot of time doing my best to ensure that everyone knows who I am. Now, obviously, I can't do everything since it is not entirely possible to reach all 8 billion people that live on this planet, nor do I want to. It seems like a chore. But little by little, I'm working my way through at least a tiny little cluster of people that want to be caught in my swirl, and I hope that is going to be you as well. But in case you don't already know, I'm Philip A. Leavenworth, a writer and producer from Los Angeles, California, in the United States. I'm a former Los Angeles Times employee and frequent contributor to various online periodicals and podcasts. I've been contributing little by little last few months to the Subspace Chatter YouTube podcast, where we are dedicated to reviewing different aspects of the Star Trek franchise. And I've also been on the Rebel Transmission podcast, where we've been discussing the Star Wars films. The other podcast that I'm currently involved with is the Anti-Derivative Jill show. And there we've been discussing the first season of For All Mankind. On Tuesday, we'll be, I think, going over episodes 9 and 10 of season 1. So season 1 ends for us next week, or this Tuesday. So be sure to tune into that. I'll be sure to leave a notification in the community tab if you feel like you'd like to take a look at that. Beyond that, this podcast is pretty much just dedicated to myself explaining things that catch my interest, going over things that I think people aren't really highlighting as much. I'm actually thinking about exploring an aspect of the Twisters movie really soon here. I'm not really sure what it'll exactly be, possibly a small video essay, but we'll see. Generally speaking, this channel will also premiere videos strictly on Mondays, and then there might be clipped out sequences that I'll probably post as shorts on Wednesdays. And then on Fridays, we will typically have live streams. We didn't have a live stream yesterday, or we actually did, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, the audio was missing. And so I believe the audio should be good tonight. I think I fixed all the issues with that. I'm unfamiliar with how to operate a lot of the current platform that we're working with right here, StreamYard. But we're going to work through it, and we're going to figure it out, and we will not give up. So, again, I hope you're all willing to come with me on this journey and see where we go. After this, we will be moving on to basically weekly episodes on Fridays around 11 in the morning, so keep that in mind. Our next episode is going to be following us through the. I can pull it up here real quick because I do not know my own things offhand. As you know, today is the Space Day episode where we're kind of commemorating our Apollo 11 moon landing. Next week, we will be going over Comic-Con because that'll be basically the day before we dive into all the events that will be happening in San Diego. I'm hoping to one day gain a press pass to attend the San Diego Comic-Con. Supposedly 2025 will be the last year because I believe the lease for the San Diego Comic-Con goes up. It was up for renewal in 2025, so that could potentially be my last opportunity to catch it while it's in San Diego. But some people have suggested, especially on the John Campea show, where he was kind of explaining that Las Vegas would probably be a better alternative to host the Comic-Con, since the convention center there is like 3 times the size of the convention center that's in San Diego. And I'm kind of in agreement, especially since this is the segue into episode 3, where we have our third episode being the Star Trek Las Vegas event coverage. So, for whatever reason, Comic-Con is the week before the Star Trek convention, and so if they move everything to Las Vegas, you'll have a potentiality for us to stay for like 10 days or a week and a half to 2 weeks. And that prospect kind of terrifies me, especially since the summers there in Vegas aren't the best. But, I'm sure we'll manage when the time comes. So I'm really looking forward to covering Star Trek Las Vegas, and I will be posting live video or anything extra that I think I will not be needing for whatever reason on the week afterwards. So be sure to look for an episode on that Monday and that Wednesday, or a video on Monday and a short video on Wednesday. The episode after that will be a free chat where viewers like you, or I'll pull a bunch of random topics out of a hat. We'll just kind of see what happens. I'm considering inviting a friend on to see if he would like to discuss some things. I'm not exactly sure if he will, considering the fact that he has more than a few time zones ahead. So that's all tentative for right now. Worst case scenario, though, it'll be me talking like this for about an hour. So that's also something I need to remind you. Our episodes will run about an hour. They may overrun sometimes, depending on if I have a guest. I do plan on inviting more guests. Sometimes they'll be friends of mine. Sometimes they'll be industry professionals or just independent filmmakers or independent creators that I think need to be highlighted because I believe in their projects. And so I do my part to help as many people out as I can. The last episode in the list so far, and I'll kind of go into some examples of what we have planned after this, but the last stream that I have scheduled is called the State of Horror stream, and that one we're going to go over different aspects of what's going on in horror, between books, movies, and television. I think it's a very good time to be a horror fan. Actually, I think it's a very good time to do anything in horror, because it seems like anything that Blumhouse produces, or anything that A24 produces as a horror project, or anything that Monkey Paw Productions presents, you're having you can produce these films for relatively little and then make a mountain of profit. And I don't, think that's bad at all. I mean, a lot of the horror projects that have come out in the last few years have been quite amazing. I mean, I've loved everything, for the most part, that I've seen of A24's horror stuff. whether it was Ari Aster's stuff. I have not seen his most recent film, but I've loved everything that Robert Eggers has done, and I've loved most other projects that have been produced by that company. Even some other works that have been out there, like It Follows, is pretty great. Um, I really love the X films, uh, X, Pearl, and Maxine. I recommend uh, I recommend you watch all three. I think they're a very good exploration of stardom and kind of the cost of yourself in this pursuit of that stardom. So please seek those out if you would like. Beyond that, I think there's a few more horror things that I think I'm interested in, but we'll go over that perhaps a little bit later. The week after, I'm considering diving into the state of fantasy. Since I don't discuss too much fantasy on this channel as yet, and I've been kind of lacking in exploring that, and I think I need to give it its due. So we'll definitely be doing that the week afterwards. I would do a state of science fiction stream, but for the next few weeks, it's kind of already sort of like that, and I don't really feel like that would be appropriate, especially I'm getting so much attention to science fiction properties like the Star Trek Las Vegas event or uh, some of the properties that will be at Comic-Con. So, and Space Day kind of discusses a little bit of that. And as you know, today is Space Day. Or as it's officially known, Space Exploration Day. So the week after that, August 30th, I'm thinking about doing because that's going to be the first time I'm going to be attending college as a graduate student at the MFA in Fiction program at San Diego State University. And so it's going to be the aftermath of that first week as a graduate student in creative writing. And I'm looking forward to seeing my thoughts on that. Since at the moment I know what I'm thinking of, how that's going to turn out, and I'm not exactly terrified of it, but I'm curious. I'm more curious about the kind of students that are going to be in the class, and I'm curious about how the dynamics all going to work, because I've spent over a decade in novel writing courses, and if it weren't for those novel writing courses, I don't think I would have gotten much writing done. So I'm hoping that the group dynamics are similar in some respects, although I will be in a different mindset in the graduate programs, because the everyone there in the graduate program is there for the graduate program, whereas in the novel writing workshops, it's mostly been a random assortment of people. It's been older folks trying to write their memoirs, or older folks that are kind of writing things that are more introspective about how life's gone for them, or younger kids who are also writing introspective work, but more so for whatever struggles that they're having at the time. And some kids are writing fantasy stories that are kind of a mix of Lord of the Rings knockoffs or Game of Thrones knockoffs, and periodically Harry Potter knockoffs. For a while there, that was the bulk of the workshops. And nothing against fantasy, as I mentioned, but when you're in a class of over 20 or 30 people, if like half the class is fantasy, it's kind of you kind of want variety. So again, nothing against fantasy. I prefer a variety of stories, and this last semester was definitely a variety of work, and I'm curious to see what happens in the graduate courses. Beyond that, September 6th might be a Star Trek centered episode, and this is coming almost a month after going to the Star Trek Las Vegas event, so I think that's worth considering. I believe in September 6th, 1966 is when Star Trek premiered in Canada. I know it premiered on September 8th, 1966 in America, the United States. So just because it falls on a Friday, we're going to make that Star Trek Day. The week after that, we're going to be doing a Space 1999 centric episode, and that might be a blank spot for the majority of my burgeoning audience. So I'll be sure to introduce that to you when the time comes. Space 1999 is a foundational work in my writing writing career. It's definitely something that I take a lot of inspiration from it, and I'm hoping that I can help inspire someone else to watch it for all of its flaws and all of its quite genius ideas. There's actually a documentary being produced by a filmmaker named Jeffrey Morris out of Minnesota, and I've spoken with him at least once on a live stream where he was discussing his newest documentary called The Eagle Obsession, where he's going to be deep diving on a specific spacecraft that appeared in the show, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with that. The end of September, I'm kind of waffling on a few ideas. We'll see. But October is definitely going to be horror month. So if you don't like horror, definitely don't tune into my channel in October. But I'm going to do my best to kind of keep it interesting for people who aren't horror fans, but are maybe kind of curious about the genre in some regard. Because I think there's an entry point for horror, and I think that anybody can become a horror fan. I believe anybody can be a science fiction, fantasy, and horror fan, and I believe that that can be you. And that's the purpose of this channel, is to turn regular people into a fan of all three. And I hope that I am successful in that endeavor. And then on top of that, we sprinkle little bits of my world building from my work, and I hope that that tickles your fancy as well. Beyond this, the challenge of this channel, at least when I first started it in May, was that we were going to do about a dozen AI generated videos. And the idea behind that was to kind of get a feel for the kind of work that I'd like to do on this channel, because I never felt a need to create videos like I had. So, because I've released other videos through a separate channel in the past, and that's kind of been my personal sort of short video channel. That one I'm going to leave for people to discover at some point. But beyond that too, I want to ensure that whatever gets produced on this channel is 100% dedicated to the fans of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And everything that I do here, at least on this channel, will be related to that fact. So if you are not any of those things, and you are not in the right place, and I recommend that if you're still listening 30 minutes into some guy rambling about his life, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and world building, that you should probably turn the channel to some other more interesting podcasts that might tickle your fancy instead. But anyway, aside from that, there's a possibility we might rebrand the channel in beginning of 2025. We'll see where that goes. But yeah. The AI experiment was a failure on my part. I did not enjoy the videos that were produced, and it was mostly curiosity for me. I will leave them all up because I'm not afraid to post my mistakes. So I believe in being transparent with your audience as much as possible, because some wise person, or at least a unwise person, said something wise, and I agree with it. So they said that authenticity is the currency of the 21st century, and I will do my best to always be authentic and transparent with my audience. I don't care if it makes me look bad or if it makes me look great. As long as you are getting the unvarnished truth from me, that's the thing that matters the most to me. So I'm human. I make mistakes. I'm flawed. But I will do everything in my power to make sure you get all of the facts that you need to make an informed decision in your pursuit of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, whether or not it comes in book form, television form, movie form, video game form, or what have you. Um, the important part is that you are fully acclimated to that world by the time you are done watching this channel. Eventually, I will be posting actual films that I will be producing with some film producer partners, and eventually we'll be hopefully stretching those into larger projects. I would love to do television eventually. There's a few television show ideas that are kind of sitting on a shelf collecting dust, and I think that it's more than past time to have these produced. So I wish we get the opportunity to tell those stories, and I wish that you come along with us on the journey to explore these new worlds that I think you will really love. So I really hope you do. But a little more about me, if you are still unaware. I'm currently a MFA student at San Diego State University. I'm heading into the program in fall. We're kind of already cementing all the little onboarding things that need to be done before I end up becoming a 100% official San Diego State Aztec. But yeah, as I mentioned before, I am in an MFA program in creative writing, but it's a specialization in fiction. I've met a few people through social media that have stated that they were in the poetry half of the MFA program, and I'm really curious to meet any more MFA in creative writing students that were on the fiction side at San Diego State. But I'm sure time will tell for that. My dream is to become a future college professor who moonlights as a film producer slash filmmaker as well as a novelist on the side. So I'm hoping I get that opportunity. And I have a lot of ideas that I haven't really presented too much, except for the occasional posting on social media that kind of gets a lot of buzz. But I'm really hoping that I can, with your help, get out there into the world and put the work that I think you will love on a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo and kind of run with it and see where we take it. Um, that's probably at least less than a year away. We'll see. But I'm really interested in diving into that kind of crowdfunding, grassroots level, uh, creative talent area. So I'm really interested in that because at the moment I'm funding a bunch of little projects on Kickstarter that are going to lead to some more IMDb credits for me because I do need those. The last IMDb credit that I have is a trauma film produced by a friend of mine called "Don't Touch That Dial." And trauma films, for those that don't know, is a kind of a brand of like B movie horror, and it's like kind of over the top and gory, but a lot of the time, not all the time. But yeah, it is quite remarkable. I played a background character. Acting's never been my thing, but I figured, why not help a friend out? So I did. So at the moment, that's my only IMDb credit. But with time, you are going to see about a dozen credits pop up there, thanks to my work on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, helping friends of mine or filmmakers I really, really admire help produce work that I think the world needs to see. So many of those projects are going to have release dates this year, the end of this year. sometime in 2025, sometime in as late as 2026 at the moment. There's some notions of mine that I'll probably be producing more stuff as the years go on. So, with any luck, these won't be my last credits. As long as I try to keep myself in shape and keep myself on the proper dieting and all that. Because yeah, at least it's not my fault if I die. It'll be some other external force that does that. So I was gonna make an Epstein joke, but I will refrain from that. Beyond this, in case you don't know, which you probably don't, I am a space advocate, so I believe in promoting the cause of space exploration or space travel. And I'm a member of the National Space Society. Back in late May, I went to their ISDC 2024 conference in Los Angeles, over here at the Los Angeles International Airport, off to the side of the airport, where I met the president of the NSS, Isaac Arthur, who runs a YouTube channel called SFIA with Isaac Arthur. And it is his channel that I think has inspired me the most to kind of think outside the box. Well, it's his channel and another channel named after the fellow John Michael Gaudier and Anton Petrov, and a world building channel called Artifexian. All these channels have helped kind of inform my space related adventure stories that you'll be seeing in the coming months and years to come. Beyond that, too, we have William Shatner popping up at the ISDC 2024. There's a video here on my channel that kind of shows a little bit of what he said. Now, I filmed that with my phone, and it was kind of impromptu. It didn't occur to me to bring an actual film camera with me, or a movie camera, even though I do have a Canon T4i that I've had for about a decade and would film perfectly. It just hadn't occurred to me. So it was always intentionally supposed to be a short, and there is a short version or a short video that is based on the same visit by William Shatner that's on this channel. So please check that out if you feel like you'd like. I'm hoping to meet William Shatner again at the Star Trek Las Vegas convention, because I am under the impression, as he's a 94-year-old man, that it might be one of my last times to do so. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that we make that happen. Aside from being a NSS member, I'm also a member of the Space Studies Institute and a member of the Planetary Society. I just joined, I think, last month. That is to say, all of these groups that I'm part of, they're all meant to produce a space-based civilization. Elon Musk is kind of the guy who's a supporter of space exploration and space travel, but strictly for the purpose of getting us off of Earth and onto Mars to turn us into a multi-planetary species to kind of reduce the chances of humanity going extinct. Which at one point I may have actually believed in it, but I've kind of grown into being a kind of an anti-Mars guy. I mean, it'd be cool if we went, don't get me wrong, but I don't believe Mars helps humanity as much as Elon Musk seems to believe. I'm kind of on the Jeff Bezos side, burn me with a picture, or burn me at a stake, throw a pitchfork at me, whatever you want to do. But Jeff Bezos's idea is based on the work of Gerard K. O'Neill, who wrote books called 2081 and The High Frontier. And in those books, he paints a picture of how an interplanetary species would exist around the solar system. And that is of interest to me, and I think would be a very good blueprint for us as we move further and further out into space. Funny enough, at the ISDC conference, I got the impression that even though we're all kind of basically wanting to achieve this goal of creating a space-based civilization, we were all kind of in disagreement about how to achieve that. We were like, some folks were moon first, some people were Mars first, and some people were like, let's do both at the same time. I think I'm in the camp of people who's a moon first guy, because I believe the moon is the gateway to the stars, sort of thing. So, we can't get anywhere if we don't do the moon first. So that's where I'm at. One of the other ideas that Gerard K. O'Neill developed that Bezos apparently believes in is the concept of moving humanity off of Earth and onto inhabitable space stations where humans just kind of live out their lives without having to interact too much with the Earth, and the Earth basically becomes a wildlife preserve of sorts. But with Bezos' plan, he wants to move all the heavy industry, all the stuff that generates a lot of um, generates a lot of pollution, a lot of toxic material, forever chemicals, that kind of thing. Um, his plan would kind of move all that off of Earth and then help Earth heal over possibly centuries. And I don't think anything's wrong with that. I think the Earth is a great place, and we should not treat space in such a way that we can just discard Earth. I don't agree with that notion. But I absolutely believe in space colonization, uh, space settlement being the key to lifting up everyone on Earth and lifting us all to a prosperous point where we can move on from certain conveniences and certain mentalities that are plaguing our society at the moment, as well as turning us into a post-scarcity society where we've eliminated the need or a want. And I don't know. I think that would be interesting. The fact that it also resembles a utopian kind of world like Star Trek is uh, possibly coincidental. I think we'll see who is the judge of that in time. We'll let posterity figure that one out. But yeah, I would call myself a space activist. Um, if that's my one political point, it's that. Um, I'm very pro space, very pro science. You'll never see me being against most science. And that's going to be kind of the thing I want to explore in the Twisters review video, or not a review. Because, like I said, I don't want to do any more film reviews. I'm going to try to do an analysis. Because in Twisters, there's this idea that you can destabilize a tornado using a certain chemical. And I don't know, I really like ideas or stories that present a problem and then use science to find a solution. And I would even go so far as to say Ghostbusters does this, but even to a more fantastical level. Um, Using science to sort of combat the paranormal is also an idea I think is interesting. But we'll get to those with time as well. But as you already found out through this last almost 45 minutes, is that I'm a fan of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, but I'm also a fan of retrofuturism, space, as you already know. And I'm a big fan of American culture, as I'm American, and American politics. Over the next few months, I'll be releasing a series of books. It's a trilogy of books that I'm calling the Rise and Fall of the First American Republic. And it'll have 3 novels in it. The American Dictator will be released first in September, if everything goes well, on paperback. And then in October, we'll be releasing its sequel, The American Caesar. And then the final book will be released in November on paperback, called The American Empire. I'm hoping to get a Kindle collection, sort of like a workaround for a box set, done by December, just in time for Christmas. So if everything goes well, you can have that as a rather interesting stocking stuffer, even though you'd have to buy it online. But creative people can be creative. But Yeah, aside from that, I'm also a big fan of comedy. I'm told I have a very good sense of humor, so please do bring the jokes as you'd like. Periodically, I post post things I think are funny on Twitter, but sometimes it gets me caught by people, and they don't like what I have to say. So that's fine. Sometimes they've gone so far as to create profiles of me to get a reaction from me, but most of the time it just kind of annoys me, and it's kind of a whack-a-mole situation when it comes up. But generally speaking, I'm kind of whatever about it. I like the fact that it's given me some kind of notoriety, at least somewhere. Because most of the time, people who report these things to me, they tell me that I'm not like what they say. So, and I've made some really good friends because of that. So, you know, funny how things work out. But I'll probably get into this much later on. But I'm an American citizen. I am Mexican by heritage. My mom's side is primarily Mexican, although she's an American citizen. So I guess I would be second generation American on my mom's side, even though my dad's family came from England in like the 1600s. So these guys have been in the country since what 1680 something. So quite a while, almost 400 years and another 50. So I call it interesting. Um, I am an atheist. I won't bring it up too much, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of organized religion. I think most people these days aren't, but there's a big new undercurrent that's emerging thanks to some of the folks that decided to leave X and leave it a cesspool of nothing but people who should not have been given any access to social media. But something about free speech and whatnot, but we'll see how that all turns out. I'm definitely vocally opinionated on a lot of things. I like to share my opinion, whether or not it's wanted or not. But it's gotten me banned from Facebook quite often. So that's actually what I'm known from for my friend circle is constantly being banned on Facebook. In fact, me being banned so much on Facebook led to me ending up on X. So I had my Twitter account for over 10 years, 12 years maybe. And then I decided to hop back on and, dabble in it a lot more. Although it could be argued that uh, Elon Musk buying Twitter is what made me hop onto it. But maybe there's some truth to that. Truth to that, we'll see. As I mentioned earlier, I have over a decade in writing workshops because I'm a bad self-starter. I produced 5 novels in the class. I'm working on a sixth. I'm hoping to have all of that published between now and next year, and possibly as late as 2026. We'll see where all the chips lie for that. I'm a business owner. I'm currently trying to build up an entertainment company that's actually it has the name of a aerospace company, which I think is kind of interesting, even though the company does other stuff. I mean, I got the idea from I was watching a movie called Sasquatch Sunset, and it's produced by a company called the Space Program. So I thought, why not? Because I had this idea for aerospace themed entertainment company for a while. At least that would be the thing. So um, yeah, Vega Aerospace is the company, and if you see it on my IMDb or sorry, my LinkedIn, you will notice that there's a few items that aren't exactly filled in yet, but those will get filled in as I go on. Currently, I'm the only employee, but with time, I'm hoping to expand that into a legitimate business with hundreds of people. So, again, these things take time. I have a lot of goals and dreams, and we'll see if I actually achieve my goals of my 10-year, 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan. So, wish me luck. This is not really my first forte into YouTube, but it's one of my first um, serious dedications to it. And I got laid off in March from the Los Angeles Times, and I was kind of concocting a way to keep myself going for a number of months. And so I just dedicated myself to writing and just getting enough material out there and working on as many projects that I could possibly put my name on. And I think by the time it's all said and done, this summer will be either a summer that I was the most productive in a long time, or a summer where I kind of bet it all and didn't work out. But either way, I'm willing to roll the hard six on this and see where things go. But right now, my largest creative project is called the From the Earth to the Stars series. It's a space adventure novel series that'll be set in an alternate present day where we have access to faster than light travel, and the solar system is settled. Um, it'll be focusing on a third generation astronaut named Frank Sawyer, as he is put in command of this ship, and he has to kind of balance the weight of his heritage, his lineage of these space explorers, as well as the weight of the possibility of discovering intelligent life. And in the universe of this story, intelligent life is not exactly spread out through the galaxy. The galaxy is more kind of inert. I mean, there's evidence of alien life, but it's been extinct in various forms due to hundreds of different ways that we've always discussed intelligent life going out. So, climate change, nuclear war, even things that aren't exactly, possible by the standards of known physics, but, wacky things that could possibly lead to extinction of some intelligent life form. So they're in a galaxy that's very quiet. And the reason behind the whole series is to find out why it's so quiet. And so I hope you enjoy those books when they come. It's going to be a very long series. I've mapped it out. So even if it's not about the money for me, it's about just putting work out there that I think, I want out there. So if it takes off, it takes off. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But as long as it's out there and it's in a form that I think represents it the best, I'll be happy. But generally speaking, my writing is I like to think of it as literary genre fiction, because I'm writing on a different level than just like a normal genre writer would approach it. Because I'm examining themes, and I'm exploring character, and exploring aspects of setting and plot, and kind of playing around with it. So generally speaking, I write science fiction, fantasy, and horror stuff, but I try to blend them in with what I call the full gamut of life, or the full exploration of life. So in this format, we're also kind of blending comedy, drama, and kind of the surreal, weird, stuff that would happen in sort of an adventure space. And I sprinkle them throughout as best I can. And ideally, the stories resemble something that I think is fairly presentable. So you'll be the judge of that. But going back to my trilogy of books that I'm going to be publishing soon, they're all available on Amazon at the moment. Pretty soon here, I'll put a link to those so that you can pre-order Kindle books if that's your thing. If that's not your thing, then I would recommend that you can pre-order the paperbacks, which aren't live yet, but they will be soon. Hopefully, to start next month. In addition to those being my first kind of foray into novel writing, I'm going to be featured as part of a short story anthology called Dragon Dreams, and it's kind of an anthology about dragons, the flying beasts from legend that are often featured throughout fantasy. And so I hope you're willing to check that out when the time comes. But yeah, You can reach me on my personal website, philipleavenworth.com. As time goes on, I'm going to be adding to the website. So as it stands right now, it's kind of basic. So give me time, and it'll definitely be spruced up. But I'm always interested in interacting with my audience, so don't be afraid. I don't bite. Even other creative people, if you want to reach out, want to collaborate, I'm more than willing to. I'm never opposed to getting all the creative juices flowing and kind of going wild with it. So I hope that you're willing to support me in that endeavor. But again, I will be on the Anti-Derivative Jill show on Tuesday, where we will explore the final 2 episodes of the first season of For All Mankind. And next week we will be exploring on the Scuttlebutt with the Phill show, the San Diego Comic-Con. So I hope you will be there with me to explore these things. Also, side note, the premiere of this episode had to be delayed due to some audio issues that occurred last night or yesterday morning, and I was not able to fix the problem because the issue was out of my hands. So I will be leaving the episode up in its entirety, just for posterity's sake and for the fact that I don't censor myself. I think it's always good to be transparent with your audience, and it's always good to do your best to learn from your mistakes or learn from things that you weren't quite experienced with. And I wear all of my scars proudly and unabashedly. So I just hope that I lost a subscriber. I don't know why. I hope that's not the reason. But yeah, that won't happen again. So if anybody can't hear me, which if you can't hear me, you probably wouldn't tell me, but I'm sure somebody will mention if they can't hear me. So if that's the case, then yeah. I don't think we'll be doing a take 3. I will just kind of write this episode off, and we'll just move on to the next one next week. And then hopefully that one doesn't have any issues either. But it wouldn't surprise me if it did. But yeah, we'll see how it works out. But generally speaking, too, kind of going back to the Twisters thing, one of the times we watched it, as I mentioned, was in 4DX. And yeah, if you have a bad back, because I feel like I need to preface this, if you have a bad back or, your ass kind of hurts a lot when you sit down for an extended period of time, yeah, I don't recommend it for you. Definitely do not try 4DX because you will regret it. Also, I think they need to install seatbelts on some of them 4DXs because if the chair and everything moves too much, you're going to gradually slide off of the chair if you're not careful. So please keep that in mind when you're out there, if that's what you try to do. But aside from all of that, we've gone over the news of the day. We've commemorated the Apollo 11 moon landing, gone over a few life updates and plans for the future. And yeah, next week we'll be exploring San Diego Comic-Con and our hopes and our, hopefully, desires for where they end up putting it if, in fact, they do decide to move from San Diego to elsewhere. So I'm really excited for us to have this new show, and I'm really excited to have you all here to watch them either now or in the future. So, and even if you aren't watching the show at this point, I don't expect us to have 1 million subscribers overnight. I think that would be quite unusual, but just to have 1 or 2 would be nice. Right now we're doing okay. We're a little bit above 41 subscribers, at least as last time I looked at it. So I think we're doing fine. But we'll definitely be increasing that number in the next few months and years to come. So I just hope you're there for the journey. But that concludes our first episode of Scuttlebutt with the Phill, Space Day. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, extraterrestrials, hobbits, and cryptids, we will see you later. Keep the ravioli in orbit and don't send money to a man named Jack.